Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. I'm really pleased to chat today with Paula Seligman, who is a divorce and transition recovery coach. I never knew there was such a thing as a divorce and transition recovery coach. She meets her clients, she says, where they are and helps them get to where they want to go by providing a safe space and sounding board for them. And that together they explore and challenge limited beliefs that may be holding them back to show up as much as their best self and live their best life. Fascinating. And I understand you started, Paula, in a design firm for 21 years and designing people's dream spaces and creating safe spaces for them in real life. But now you've transitioned into designing your life, reimagining and helping individuals design their lives after divorce. What a fascinating transition yourself that you've gone through from designing homes to designing lives. Tell me, how do you go about designing a post-divorce life?
So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And yes, it was an incredible transformation and it wasn't too long ago. So it's still a huge passion and I'm still learning as I go. And really it's about identifying, when you think about design, you think about the foundation, you think about building, you think about creating, this space and what it's going to look like and what it's going to feel like. And so what I did with clients in my previous career was set the stage for, that environment. And like designing somebody's life, what are you eating?
Sorry.
You are creating that same sort of safe space. You ask these people that are going through this, what do they imagine their life to look like? What is it going to feel like? What is it going to look like? And we start building from the ground up in terms of what that vision is going to look like. And
what do you do? Do you sit down? Do you do a Zoom chat? Do you put them on a couch like you're a psychiatrist? What do you do?
I do have a couch in the back there, but that's for my dogs only. No, we do everything on Zoom, and or we do meet in the odd coffee shop or phone calls, but it's usually through Zoom.
And are people reasonably knowledgeable of what they want in life? I find that a lot of people that after they've gone through a 7-year, 10-year, 20-year, 30-year marriage, really are wondering what they want in the rest of their life.
Absolutely. And most people really don't. And that's why a coach is really helpful to get them there. And so when I say I meet them where they are at, usually they don't know what they want, or they don't know how they want to feel, and they're numb, or they're just coming out of something that is felt real to them, and all of a sudden they're, where am I in life? And that's the thing. Sometimes they don't even know who their friends are. They don't really know, the direction they want to go in. And so what we do is we sort of unpack those barriers, what is in your way? And usually it's them. And so what do you want to explore? How do you want to see it? And sort of paint the vision of, what it might feel like 6 months from, down the road. And we go slowly and start building that dream life.
Do most people want to dive back into another marriage?
Some want to go into another relationship because it just feels like they don't want to be alone. And so I try to, ask them what is it about being alone that is so frightening? And sometimes that direction changes when they find out that they really like themselves and they really dive into sort of what is their best self? What does that look like? How am I going to show up? How am I showing up now? And what is it that I want to improve? And so once they get a handle on, sort of their value system and recognizing that they've got these incredible strengths, because we all do, they realize, I don't need another relationship right now. I'm okay with myself.
Do people want to sow their wild oats and go explore and join into a whole bunch of dating apps?
That happens. That does happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. Explore. Go out there and see what's out there. Go and have fun. There's nothing wrong with that. You just have to be really, cognitive of your moral compass and just, figure out what those, how your values are aligned and make sure that, you're speaking the same language. We don't want to get off the bus. We kind of want to get on it again.
Sorry, I don't understand that. What do you mean by that?
By the bus?
by the moral compass and
Well, because, sometimes people go out there and they dive into these unhealthy relationships, or they start, screwing around and, just for fun, because it's like, they just want, like you said, sowing your wild oats. You just want to make sure that your values are aligned, that you are, you respect yourself.
and some people don't when they come out of a relationship, you're saying.
Sometimes they lose their confidence, they lose their footing, they lose, they don't know, who they are. And they have to sort of get back into, what it is that they need in their lives. So I'm all for fun. Don't get me wrong. But, as an adult with responsibilities, children and all that, you just want to, stay classy.
We're chatting tonight with Paula Seligman. She is a divorce and transition coach. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Paula in just a minute. Stay with us, everybody. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're talking tonight about getting over a divorce and getting on with your life with Paula Seligman, who is a divorce and transition recovery coach. I never knew that such a thing existed. People come to Paula, she says, when they feel stuck and overwhelmed through the journey of divorce or separation, then they express feelings of doubt and confidence barriers, and emphasize that they want peace and harmony in their lives again. And what she does is she works with them to find that peace and clarity in their life. And I think it's fascinating that you started out designing homes and buildings and living spaces, and now you're trying to design people's lives. That's fascinating. So you said that what you do is you start and you get together and you talk to someone about what they want, and trying to design their post divorce life. Are there any tools that you use to help people design that post divorce, post separation life?
I work with, the individual. And so I really try to promote, support. Get your support team, people that really are going to support you for who you are, and for, who know you well. And also practice, self-talk, like the good self-talk. Sometimes we come in with this inner critic that stops us, or, we start to believe. So I try to help them with being mindful of when that happens, and to sort of reframe it. And also to just really explore challenges, in your life. Like, get out there and try something new. Get out there and reconnect with other people, and widen that horizon, and get into more of a healthy mindset. But you have to be willing to do these things. Nobody's doing it for you. Nobody's giving you this toolkit and this ticket to ride. You've got to be, brave enough to go out there and challenge yourself. And this is the thing. And some people really are ready to do this, and others are like, I don't want it to be this way. It's too hard. It's too difficult.
So it sounds like the big tool is just getting on with life.
Challenging yourself, getting real. Yeah, getting on with life. And getting on with life means so many different things to so many different people. And because again, you can't just get on with life. You've got to really want to get on with life. Again, nothing's simple. Life is not simple.
Is divorce an end, or is it a beginning to a new and better life potentially?
Well, it's the end of a marriage. It is the end of that. But it's an opportunity. If you can look at the grand scheme of things, it's a real opportunity to not only get to know yourself really well, but also to carve like a brand new, life, and a brand new perspective. So it's attitude and perspective, but it's an opportunity. So many
people's sort of image of themselves is as a couple, and they define themselves by the relationship that they had and their friends or other couples. How do you help people through that?
Well, that's a great question. And that's what happens, is that people do define themselves by others, and that power that they give to other people to define them. And that's the separation of being by yourself and getting to know yourself, and realizing that you have all these strengths and all these attributes, that you can make decisions on your own. You can make choices on your own. And divorce doesn't define you. in the sense of like you're a failure or that this didn't work. It kind of reaffirms and redefines, who you want to be and who you want to be to show up, and how to, create that best self. So yeah, it's people come out of there, really torn, stressful. I've done it myself.
You've gone through divorce yourself.
I have.
And was that tough?
Of course it was tough. It was really tough. But what got me through was that I learned how to rely on my belief system. And I really got very, very, very real with how I wanted it to be, and challenge myself. And when I changed my behavior, when I learned that there were two sides, it's like you can't blame somebody for where you're at. And when I learned to really sit in my space and say, you know what, I'm taking responsibility for where I'm at. And my ex, is where he's at. And as soon as I shifted that and realized that, there were two roles here, it wasn't one-sided, I could take back my power, and I created my own belief system, which is that we can all get through hard things. We can all, we all have the wherewithal to get through it. So
you've said this a few times, understand where you're at, and get to know yourself. Like, how do you do that?
Well, you got to really you have to, first of all, you have to understand where you're at. And if you're not happy with where you're at, it's like that song. If you don't like what you got, change it. If you don't like, rearrange it. You have to sit with yourself and get real and just say, listen, I don't like where I'm at right now. I'm stuck and I need to get out of this. And how am I going to get out of this? Well, no one's taking you out of it. You can have a ton of support, but you've got to get yourself out of it. And then you really have to figure out, what is it that you believe in? What is your belief system? What are your values?
So use your own situation example. Give me a sense, if you could, of what your value or belief system was and how you changed it to what?
Well, I was young, and I was relying on, like you said before, somebody to give me this personality and this definition of who I was. I relied on somebody. And I realized that, I gave so much of my power away that at the end of the day, who was I? I was showing up if that person was allowing me to show up. So that whole thing switched when I took my power back and realized I am not going to live in somebody else's limited beliefs. My beliefs are that I am a good person, that I have so much to give, that, I'm valuable and I'm worthwhile, I have worth, self-worth. And when you take that back and you believe it, then nobody can stab at it. Nobody can take it away from you. But that belief system it's got to be real. It's got to come from that place of, true intrinsic, being true to yourself.
Do you primarily work with males or females?
So I work with primarily females, but I love to coach men. So I do have some men in my clientele, and I love working with men. Hint, 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 hint.
And the sort of this perception that people have taken their power away, and they need to claim it back. Is that primarily a female trait or a male trait, or everywhere?
It's, because I work mostly with women, they do feel powerless because they may have put their career on hold. They may have been the ones taking care of the kids, and the husband went out there and had this, big job or whatever, bigger life, so to speak. And so they stood back and they put their needs on hold. And that's just, that's so general, because I do work with power women that, have incredible jobs too. But the sense of that defining moment where you do take your power back, it's all about, where's your self-worth? How do you value yourself? And I think when people do lose their sense and they start to be, they feel like they're a victim, or they feel like they've had to, wait around, that's when they're confused about, how do I get it back? Like, how do I get my voice back? How can I be heard again?
How do you get your voice back? Why? People think they've lost their voice?
Well, they've lost the power. They've lost, their say, because they were the ones that stood behind and, didn't put themselves forward for whatever reason. And that's a choice that they make. And once they learn that they've got all this, incredible strength and power and something to say and are worthwhile, they move up, they step up. And sometimes that's a power struggle, but it depends. It's like, everybody, everybody's at a different stage in their lives. And it's about, showing up as your best self. And what is your best self? Your best self is your true authentic self. And I think if you can find that and be authentic, your life is going to be easy because you just show up as you.
But again, and maybe I'm being pedantic here. I apologize, but you've said this a couple of times. Your true authentic self. Find out who you are, where you're at. How do you do that? Like some people go to therapists for decades, psychiatrists, and sit on couches, and meditation, and like, how do you as a coach try to help people figure out where they're at, who their true authentic self is, etc.?
Well, all of that helps, by the way. I mean, if people need therapy, it's great. If people need all kinds of support, it's out there. And I think it's incredible that, you go out there and ask for it. Being true to yourself is showing up as you, not pretending, not listening to somebody else's belief of yourself, really showing up as who you are and who you want to be. And yeah, that does take time because, again, people lose themselves. You lose your footing when you come out of a marriage. You lose your confidence. You lose your bearing. And that confidence is built by going out there, trying, challenging yourself, really putting yourself in a uncomfortable situation. I always say, I try to help clients get really comfy with being uncomfy.
Really comfy with being uncomfy. What do you mean by that?
Well, learning to be uncomfortable, learning to be really uncomfortable.
Because being divorced and separated and going through that situation is uncomfortable?
It's extremely uncomfortable. I mean, everything in life through a transition is uncomfortable. But the thing is that being comfy will keep you in a stuck zone, will keep you in a bad marriage, will keep you in an unhealthy environment. So you have to get really real about, I got to be uncomfortable. I got to feel the pain. I got to feel the grief. I got to feel the stress. I got to feel it. I got to feel it all, feel the feelings, and then learn to process, those emotions and get into a better mindset of, listen, life is uncomfortable. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but I can get through this. And I can get through this because I believe that I can get through this.
You wrote to me that trusting the process is the key to growth and change, and that you explore and unpack barriers to growth and to build best self practices to help identify and harness inner strengths. What are those best self practices?
Well, first of all, back to trusting the process. It is a process. It takes time. And so you've got to be really, in terms of best self practices, you got to be easy on yourself. You got to be kind to yourself. You've got to allow yourself to unravel and, like I said, feel those feelings and be uncomfortable and embrace change, because nothing will change unless you change with it. And that process is slow. That process is long. And you got to trust yourself along the way. You got to trust that you can do this. You got to trust that, you're going to be fine, or you're going to get through this. And when you learn to trust, and you learn to forgive and let go of some of these things that are, keeping you stuck, all of a sudden, a weight's been lifted. You become lighter. You become, more open. And I think if you have an open mind, you're going to let things into your life that are, positive and good for you, instead of pushing it away. Sometimes we push things away because we're afraid.
I understand that you were trained in your coaching practice at the Adler School of Professional Coaching. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is? And also that you say that out of that came 3 different elements of your coaching style. Tell us a little bit about that, if you could.
Okay, so I did train at the Adler Professional School, which is in Toronto. We did it online because, COVID happened. And we talk about the foundation of coaching, which is basically, how we start to recognize and connect with people and build this, intimate relationship. And I don't mean intimate in that way. I mean, like
Close.
close. And then we go into, the structure and the ethics and coaching people in the workforce and learning to communicate and to be able to, practice, what's the word? This is going to be edited, right? More of the science of coaching, like more of, the ethics and the origin of. Now I'm
how to advise people, how to work with people, how to help them.
Yeah, how to advise.
And then I found it interesting that you say that your experience being a mom of 4 boys, and them and their friends, and working to be a sounding board, to be a mentor, to be an advisor, was helpful experience. Really?
Yes. Well, this is the thing. And, I'd been in the design business for 21 years and I loved my career. And one day I was, I do have a lot of boys and they do come to me for advice, girl advice. And so I would sit with them and I would ask them questions like, what is it about this girl that, that you love? And they would describe certain attributes. And my son said to me, Mom, you should have a show. You should interview people and, talk to them about relationships and all this. And because I had such a successful divorce, because I worked harder on my divorce than I did on my marriage. I really loved, I was very passionate about relationships and connections because that's how I learned. So I was sitting on the couch, I was making a TikTok one day. I love TikToks. And my son said, you know what, Mom, you should go back to school and you should really take this seriously. You should really go back and do this coaching thing because you talk about it all the time. And part of my career in design, you're coaching people because you're in intimate spaces with them and you're really getting close. And so you see the emotional side. And so I did. I went back to school and not only did I go for my ACC, which I got in the first year, I went for my PCC, which is a professional accreditation from ICF. Then I went back again and did another year and specialized in divorce and transition. So I took it really seriously and I'm extremely, extremely passionate about what I do. I love, I could coach all day.
Paula, this is fascinating. If people want to reach out to you to access your services, should they go to a website or what's the best way to get you?
So I am on, so I do have a website, www.paulaseligmancoaching.com, which will take you to Instagram, LinkedIn, it's all there. And I have a newsletter coming out and I'm working on a podcast called I Married a Lemon because we're all someone's lemon. And and I'm just having fun doing this. And I love meeting people. And
Paula Seligman, coaching.com. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back more with Paula talking about living your best life after divorce or separation in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We're chatting tonight with Paula Seligman, who is a divorce and transition recovery coach. And you're also a life coach, I understand, Paula, that you've got on your website. And that you say that people come to you when they feel stuck and overwhelmed through the journey of divorce or separation or any other challenges that they have in life, and that they express feelings of doubt and confidence barriers and emphasize that they want peace and harmony in their lives again, and that you help them find that peace and clarity. That's great. You said an interesting thing just as we were closing our last segment. You said you worked harder at your divorce than you did your marriage. Tell me about that.
So that I talk about, and I've done, public speaking on this particular subject, is that the divorce was something that was not right. It was not something that I wanted. It was not something that I, sought out to have. I wanted the dream. I wanted everything to be intact. However, what the divorce did for me was that it opened up this whole can of, self-discovery. And so when I say that I worked harder on my divorce, I worked really hard on myself, and I really worked hard on changing my mindset and my perspective on things. And so when I was able to do that, I was able to share that space with my ex, and we were able to sit together and create an intact family that was, we called it out-tact family. We were not together, but we were creating, we had 2 kids, and we wanted to create this, safe place for them, and that they knew that their parents were not going to use them, as bait, and that we were going to, try to be as amicable as possible. And that was a real shift, and that was a lot of work. And in order to do that, you've got to be willing to step outside yourself and be uncomfortable, like I say, to be uncomfortable, but also to see the other side, to learn that empathetic piece, to learn that, you're not the only one in this marriage. There are 2, people. And again, learning to share that space and create something that we could do together as a team. And I'm not saying it was easy. Trust me, it wasn't easy, but that's why I say I worked hard on it.
Should you have worked harder on your marriage? Would you have had if you had had a marriage coach, would you have done a better job with the marriage? Or no, it was destined to fail anyway?
No, you know what? It's funny that you say that, because I always say, like, had I had a divorce coach, which I wish I would have had, I think that the outcome would have been the same, because I think we were very different people. I do think the outcome would have been the same, but I think that I would have really got to know myself in a different way a little bit sooner. Like, this took a long time. Like, I'm still learning about myself. So I think that with a divorce coach, I may have been able to not expedite, but I would have gotten there a little bit sooner, for sure. Because,
So how did you get through this process if you didn't have a divorce coach?
I coached myself. I didn't even know that I was coaching myself, but I coached myself. I mean, I did get some help. I did see a therapist, but I realized that it wasn't really the therapy. I didn't really need to go back to the past. I think my childhood and all that felt secure enough that I could work with. It was more about the present and moving forward. So that's when I took my initiative and figured out, what, this is my work. This is my job. And this is what I did. And I'm proud of it, because when I started this lead, I felt like, if I was taking this lead and I was teaching myself to be, the best that I could be and show up as authentic me, then maybe I could, influence or have some sort of positive, impact on my ex and sort of how we were going to do this together. Somebody had to take the lead, and that was me.
And what did your ex think about you trying to coach him?
Well, he wouldn't let me coach him. I had to coach myself. But I think what he appreciated was that I had an open mind to communicating better. We communicated well. We learned to communicate well. We learned to put the boundaries up. We learned, sort of each other's good and bad. And I think we got closer because I don't think we ever really had these deep conversations or deep diving, insights when we were married. Everything just kind of like sailed. And I always worry about people that just sail, because complacency is like a scary place too.
Were you married a long time?
Not so long, 8 years.
Okay. But you said you got married young.
I got married young, and then I got remarried. I'm remarried.
So you've had 2 experiences with the divorce.
Well, no, I'm married. I'm still married.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Then I'd be really good at this. No, I'm remarried again. And here's the thing, is that when you do the work and you figure out, your authentic self, and you realize who you are, sometimes it takes a while to figure out who you really are. Then, my husband now is this person that I mirrored when I was, at my best, and feeling like I was at my most authentic self and my true, intrinsic self. So
what do you mean you mirrored?
like I mirrored who I was. I attracted who I was at that point. You know, after doing that work and after, you know, digging deep and getting, you know, myself into this different mindset, this different perspective, the way I saw things was really beneficial in the way that I was showing up. And so mirroring who I was at that point took me to my life partner now. Who is my life partner? My soulmate.
Are there soulmates?
100% they're soulmates.
Just one or more?
Well, there's different, you can have more than one soulmate. You can, but one at a time.
Okay. You're also a life coach. Tell me what you do in life coaching and how is it different than divorce and transition coaching?
Well, so life, you know, basically the whole thing is life coaching. So, you know, when you get into even transition and divorce, you're really life coaching. You know, you're really taking their situation wherever they are and you are guiding them through their life. And so, when I differentiate the life coaching, it's usually the same sort of thing. It's just that divorce clients come to me when they want specifics with their, you know, their divorce situation. And in terms of life coaching, I can coach anybody through any transition in life, career, friendships, boss problems, career changes. It's all
How do you stay positive through this whole process? You know, a lot of people are, and maybe you don't get involved, you know, like during the divorce scene, but you know, the lawyers, the financial statements, the court, if you go to court, or the negotiations, or the mediations, the arbitrations, the separation of homes, the separation of personal effects. It can be daunting and devastating, and the end of an era, and the end of a life that you had together. How do you stay positive through all that?
You know, you have to really rely on people to help you and to support you, because this is not a one-man show, and it is difficult, and sometimes it's so overwhelming that you don't even know how to, you know, how to start and how to compartmentalize, you know, all these things that are crashing down on you. So it's really important to seek support and get some people to help you, and really try to be easy on yourself. Like, try to figure out, you know, in terms of priorities, what's most important here, and let the other people, like the lawyers and the mediators, like, let them do their work, and work on yourself, work on your, you know, on the way that you talk to yourself, work on the kindness that you give to yourself, work on being easy on yourself and telling yourself that, you know, you're doing the best that you can, because you want to be able to, you know, show up strong and be able to be, you know, advocate for yourself. And if you're, you know, bogged down, you're not going to be able to see, you know, the forest. You're not going to be able to see the trees beyond the forest. So you've got to be able to take care of yourself. And I really ask clients to take self-care very seriously. You know, get enough rest, get out and get some exercise, you know, be kind to yourself, practice, you know, meditation and you know, exercising and yoga, whatever it takes, but to really calm your body down and learn to soothe it, because you know, you've only got yourself, and you've got to be able to take your steps and take your, you know, take it slowly. Nothing happens quick.
We're chatting tonight with Paula Seligman. She is a divorce and transition coach, as well as a life coach. She's got professional accreditations from a couple different coaching organizations and schools. And she runs her organization with a website, paulaseligmancoaching.com. We're going to take a final break for some messages, and come back with some concluding comments in just 2 minutes. Stay with us, everybody. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. We've been chatting tonight with Paula Seligman. She runs a divorce and transition coaching business, a life coaching business at paulaseligmancoaching.com. She has gone through her own divorce and learned some stuff from that, coached herself through it. She's got 4 boys, and she says that the 4 boys expect and want and benefit from some mentoring and some advice, and that helps her. And she's 20 years in the design business, where she was helping people design their homes and their home spaces, and now she has used those skills plus her coaching experience to now help people design their lives, which sounds fantastic. Paula, do you have any concluding comments for people that are going through probably one of the most traumatic time periods of their life?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me today. And secondly, the key is to really not give up. The key is to know that whatever you're feeling, this is temporary, and you will get through this. And it does take time. It takes patience, and it takes patience on you to be patient with yourself. And in order to move out of this and move through it, you've got to take tiny steps. Nothing is going to happen by leaping and running up those stairs. You've got to take one step at a time. And through that, you will learn to be resilient. You will learn that you can do this. You will learn that you will trust yourself through this process, and not to give up. You'll get through it. Not
give up, be resilient, you'll get through it. And I think the other thing that you talked about numerous times, I kept on pushing you on this because I'm not sure exactly how you do it, but I think you had some great suggestions, is doing that deep dive into you and trying to figure out who you really truly are. And I really enjoyed the way you described that when you were at your most positive and confident, you went out and you found someone that mirrored that, and that was your soulmate or your life partner thereafter. And I think a lot of people have difficulty spending that time trying to figure out who they really authentically are, and spend a lifetime discovering that process. But it sounds like you've figured out one of the secrets to doing so. So thank you very much for sharing that with us, and for sharing your confidence that we'll get through whatever it is that we're going through, whether it be a divorce or a transition or a separation or a loss of a job or whatever else life throws bumps in our ways. And thank you for the people that you help, and for anyone out there that wants to access Paula's services. You can get that at Paula Seligman training.com. And or I've caught her on Instagram, and she often posts some interesting things there and on LinkedIn. So check out Paula's social media feeds as well. Did you want to say some final things, Paula?
I was going to say it's paulaseligmancoaching.com. Thank you, Brian. You are lovely. And it sounds like you are showing up as your best and authentic self. And I really appreciate this time with you. So keep on doing you, and I'm going to keep doing me.
Thank you. I'm trying. Sounds like you're succeeding. We're going to take, actually, no, we're not going to take a break. We're done. I remind everyone I'm on Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. You can get all my podcasts and video casts on my website, briancrombie.com. And all my podcasts are on Apple, Audible, and Speakeasy podcasts. And my videos are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and on YouTube. Check out my YouTube channel for all my videos. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great evening. Good night.
Night.
Well, welcome back to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I was wrong. We're not done. We've got our last session still to go with Paula Seligman, who is a divorce and coach on sort of redefining yourself, figuring out what the future is all about. Paula, a lot of divorces occur because of big problems in marriages, betrayals or infidelity or financial problems or gambling habits or alcoholism, like issues like that. How do you deal with that? How do you move on from something like that trauma that so many people will talk about?
Okay, well, so those are big issues, and obviously it's trauma. Like when you say trauma, that is something that is traumatic. I don't get into the specifics of all of that in terms of like expertise in terms of gambling and all of all that infidelity, but it does come up. And again, it's really about dealing with the trauma, dealing with, that sort of betrayal. You've got to be able to get support. with the right person to sort of unpack those emotions and process what's going on. So, when you talk about trauma, we talk about, how it impacts your life, but how it impacts others in your life, like in your family. And, how are you going to, how are you going to move on from something like that? That's a big shift. That's a big, that's a huge
issue, problem, challenge, no question.
It's a huge challenge. Yes.
So a lot of what you've talked about today is moving on and finding this authentic new you. Any final recommendations on how you actually do that? Because that's, people talk about it, but sometimes I think it's kind of trite because people talk, oh, you got to find your authentic self. You got to do the deep work. You've got to, find out who you really are. And, don't we know that?
Yeah, no. And you know what? I think the message is that don't give up. This is a temporary situation. And I mean, people do stay in this for a long time, and you want to be able to get out of it. So you want to take it easy. You want to go step by step. You want to be able to believe, in your strengths and lean into your strengths, because we all have them and we all have the power to get through hard things. It's really a matter of what you see your life to be. What do you want? Like, how do you want it to be? And then again, divorce doesn't define you. It doesn't define you. It can actually redefine your perspective and give you an opportunity to go out there and create this incredible life for yourself. But you do have to believe, you do have to believe, and ask yourself, like, what am I excited about? What gets me out of bed in the morning? How am I going to show up? And again, slow process. It takes time.
How am I going to define myself? How am I going to show up? I had someone say one of the best ways to do that was to write your eulogy. And if you didn't like what someone would say about you, then, that sort of says you got to change things quick if you want your eulogy to be a little bit different, a little bit better.
It's not a bad idea. You could also get feedback from your friends. You can ask them, what kind of friend am I? What, how do I support you? How do I show up as a friend? But it's about, if you're stuck in a situation and you don't like it, then you're going to want to challenge yourself to push through it. And this is when you define yourself. When you face challenges, when you face, adversity in your life, this is when you really get to see what you're all about.
You said you started out as a interior designer, and you were designing spaces, and now you're designing lives. What's the connection? What's the commonality?
Great question. And there's a bridge, because when you are designing people's homes, you're starting from the foundation. You're starting from the very beginning. You're looking at the blueprints. You're picking all the finishes, but you gain this relationship and you connect with people. And then you're trying to really design somebody's intimate space. What are they going to feel like in it? What do they want it to look like? How do they want it to impact their lives? And it becomes like this step-by-step, process where you're really designing this vision. And in essence, you're really designing their lives. And so when I made the shift to go into coaching, it's the same principles. It's, how do you want your life to be? How do you want it to look? How do you want it to feel? And again, that safe space, that safe, intimate space. How do you want to create it?
Last question. You were married and divorced, and it sounds like the divorce was reasonably traumatic, and you went through your own healing process, and that's what sort of led you into the coaching. Were you nervous, scared about getting married the second time? Did you do something different? Were you more resistant? Were you more evaluative? Is the second time decision different after the first divorce and after the delve into coaching?
Yeah, well, second time around, definitely I knew myself better, and I had created like this awareness in who I was. And I also had, I was really in touch with my value system, and I really knew what was important for me. And so when I was meeting my husband now, it was important that we did share those same values and that they were aligned. And that really set the stage for, a very good foundation. And we built on that. I think when I got married the first time, I was very young. I married the cutest guy in high school. So he was brilliant for breeding. And my values change, they do change as you get older. And I think if you're not in touch with your partner and you don't connect and grow together, then it's very easy to grow apart and have your values change. And then, sometimes as you get older and this marriage doesn't last or it doesn't grow because you do go in different directions, you grow in different directions. So I
the
think
first time you were more influenced by attraction, appearance, and the second time more by soulmate / values?
Well, he's good looking too, but that was just by accident, or maybe by chance. Sometimes you get lucky. And also when you do love somebody intrinsically, they become good looking, right? And sometimes the good looking ones become less good looking. So it had to do with, our intrinsic values that were aligned, and just, we saw the same things.
Remind us again, if people want to access your services, how do they do that?
PaulaSeligmanCoaching.com.
Thanks, Paula Seligman, for joining us and telling us a little about divorce coaching and moving on in life and figuring out your resilience and finding out your authentic self. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. Really, thank you. Have a lovely day. Look, the sun's out now.
That's our show for tonight, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I remind you, I'm on every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock on 960 AM. You can stream me online at www.saga960am.ca. And all my podcasts and video casts are available on social media, YouTube, and all those podcast sites. Thanks for joining us. Good night, everybody. And you know what? I think this idea about doing this deep work and figuring out who you are and your authentic self makes a lot of sense. There's just no question about it. So maybe this weekend we can all take some time and take a walk in the park or meditate. I like going to my hot tub and figuring out who we really are and what we really want in life. Thanks, Paula. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.
Actually, Paula, before we go, can I ask you one last question? I find that a lot of people want to sort of, when they get divorced, rush back in to a new relationship or new marriage right away. Is that smart, or should you take some time on your own?
It's a great question. And I'm going to tell you personally, and with clients, people that I've met are terrified to be alone. They want to jump back in because they don't want to deal with their emotions. They don't want to deal with any of it. They want to fast forward. They don't have the patience, and they want that hurt to go away. So they jump into something else because they think that will just soothe the soul, and they'll get over it quicker. And by having someone else, they'll be able to process their emotions within that relationship. It doesn't work. And I'm going to tell you, even personally myself, I took some time off. I took a good year off before I met, my husband now, to really get to know myself and spend some time alone. And I think it's really, really crucial, because that's where you find out who you are. That's how you get to know yourself really well. And that's how you get to know what you're all about. And in terms of being authentic, you show up, you learn how to show up.
I really enjoyed this conversation, and we touched on trauma. I think we should do a whole nother show on trauma and really get into it in greater detail. What do you think?
I think it would be great, because there's so many different, ways we can talk about this, with attachment styles and learning how to, let go of some of that shame and blame and all that stuff. But it's a bit deeper than just skimming the surface. It goes deep.
Paula Seligman, I enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to the next one. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's our show for tonight. Good night, everybody.